Hello, my dudes and non-dudes. This is a channel for everyone. I'm Jason Gunner, and this is the second part of my series with the great Alex Haruspis, and we are going to talk a lot about the future of Halo and its recent past. But if you're coming here for the first time, I suggest you to watch the first part of our chat to get all cozy and caught up. But don't worry, I will be here when you finish. I promise. Now, without further ado, let's go to part 2 of One-on-One with Haruspis. Don't you think that like the Halo as a universe has like the same qualities of like the MCU, for example, and the Star Wars universe?
Oh, far and away, I think Halo's even better than those, to be honest. I think it's got so much more potential to tell all these interesting new stories in really unexpected ways through games. So that's absolutely potential I'd love to see seized upon.
Yeah, because I've been thinking. People say that like 343 tries to turn Halo into Call of Duty, and I don't see that. Even with like Sprint, which you can't be a futuristic soldier and run at the same time. That's impossible. you know so I don't see that. But like and then when I think about Call of Duty, one of the biggest criticisms about the franchise is that they release a new game every year. That's how you're just milking, just making money. But I feel like Halo has so many great stories that like I would like to see a Halo game every year, not about the same guy. I don't want to see my Master Chief going on somewhere every year, because I'm pretty sure that like if you make like this type of like schedule, it will be like it would take away the quality of the game. But like we have so many different stories that you could literally have a Halo game coming out every year from a different studio that will be under the umbrella of 343 Industries. That will like they have their own narrative, own arcs, but that they would like in a sort of like MCU style contribute to an overall arc that would culminate in the next Halo Infinite. Like so in the next end of an era and start of another one. Like I sort of feel like that this is something that Halo could really like capitalize on. I don't think that people will be saturated. Like when I read Renegades, I think, man, how cool would be a game where you're like a salvager and you are just like going from planet to planet, getting scrap and like discovering stuff that you're not supposed to discover. Running away from Oni.
Yeah, and there's all sorts of games that I think you could make at varying sort of scales and genres. Obviously, we've had an RTS or two RTS games with the Halo Wars branch of the series. What about like RPGs and stuff like that, role-playing games? That'd be really cool to dive into. Especially with all these role-playing studios they've got now, with like Bethesda and everything.
Yeah.
It's like, well, maybe we could do some crossover here.
Exactly. We got the manpower now. Instead of just I hear a lot of like speculations of Microsoft buying Sega, which I don't think they should. Whatever money they would pay for Sega is it's not worth it. And I love Sega games. It's not worth it. Just like make Halo as big as it can be. Like there's some people say, hey, man, I don't like Halo because I don't like FPS. Here, this is this like adventure, an immersive adventure third-person game inside the Halo universe with some characters that you're just gonna love. And then they could just like have like what we have in Gears 5, that before you start the game you can like press a button and say, hey, what happened with Gears, and then just have like a little like, hey, this is all that happened in Gears in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna get into Point of Light because you read the book before everybody. You got to talk with Kelly Gay, dude. I'm like very good jealousy of you on that. That you got to interview her, and before guys, this dude visited 343 Industry and got to talk with Jeff Easterling, like Grim Brother One. How was that experience, dude?
Oh, it's amazing. It was November 2018. I'd had a standing invitation to go visit the studio for about 2 years at the time, but I was teaching, so I didn't have the time to sort of fly out. And when I eventually sort of like I stepped out of that, I actually had the time to go out and visit, so I did. I got to spend a week out there. Jeff is awesome. I love him. He's a good friend of mine. it's hard to kind of put into words. Sort of,
What a fancy man. Look at that, people.
yeah. It's hard to sort of put into words just how sort of emotionally kind of all encompassing it was to have this series, which has been in your life for almost 2 decades now. And you kind of get to meet the people who make it, and discover they're really awesome people as well.
Dude, I'm really happy for you that you get to do that. As a fan of the franchise, I can imagine how cool it is. And get you talk with get you just saying a podcast. Yeah, Jeff Easterling, good friend of mine. Boy, man, do I feel happy for you. Hey, Jeff, if you need more friends, I'm here, dude. I'm a great dude. People really like me. Oh, let me just. I think you heard a beep. I don't want you annoy the hell out of you. This beep. I have to just put my headset to charge. Just a second. All right. I bought this Astro A50 headset, and it feels like the battery lasts for like 40 minutes. I only have it because it's the Halo edition. It's like really pretty. But dude, you totally deserve to be friends with everybody on 343. I think that like the work that you do with your blog really, really like, especially for these guys who are like super criticized for nothing. You do a great job. Besides the great takes that you have with Halo, and I really think like I say, you're very well spoken, and you know I really like to read your stuff, even though I still didn't read everything, but
There's a lot. There's a lot on there now.
one that I have open here that I'm gonna read is like the one that you just wrote about the Halo TV show, because I know virtually nothing about what's going on, especially because like this has been announced for so long that when I see a trailer, I believe it's true. So I want you to read that one, but you do a very good job. So you're very deserving of the recognition. Like when I
Thank you very much.
I think when I saw that, I think it was a Cannon Fodder prior to the official release of Point of Light. Then I saw that like Jeff told people, hey, read his article about if you want to catch up what Spark's doing. And when you kind of say, I hadn't even talked with you yet, but I was kind of like, look at my boy going to the big leagues. But yeah, man, I think I wanted to say something to you before we go to Point of Light, but I forgot. We just kind of go from there. First of all, wow.
Yeah.
What do you think? We just kick the door here. What do you think from all the things that we saw is the biggest moment of Point of Light in terms of like reviews? Is the precursor thing?
Gosh, I would probably say the precursor thing. That was so kind of unexpected, because you think obviously with the franchise strategy right now leading up to Infinite that this book would sort of have some ties into it, and it does, but that's just how the book begins. That's the first act, is the ties to Infinite, and then it goes off on its own completely different journey with the most compelling story I think it could tell.
I was afraid of one thing, and I was really happy that it turned out to be the precursor thing, because I cannot help to have this fear on the back of my head, or like, oh man, they're gonna dial too much back from what they did in Halo 4. I think I said in this talk with you like already 3 times, because even though I'm confident, there's a part of me that fears, because I really like what they built, so I don't want them to go back. So I was afraid when the librarian is like telling Ryan about like, I was born with 5 fingers, got hair, and some voice tells me go search for the lost rate, and I was like, oh man, you're gonna tell me that the humans were Forerunner all along? Don't do that to me, dude. Don't do that to me. And then it turns out that like, no, they're just sister races, which I already kind of guessed all along.
Yeah, so this idea is played with in the Forerunner saga itself quite a bit, where especially in Primordium, where they talk about like humans and Forerunners being recombined together through the flood, and there's suggestions that we share some kind of common ancestor and everything. And the Gravemind says in Silentium that human is just what we're called now by the Forerunners, which implies that we were called something else before, like millions and millions of years ago. So they've played with that idea quite a lot, and Point of Light really sort of pays off some of those things.
Yeah, but I like that they kind of give a definitive answer, like, hey, we are not the same, but we're like sisters, like the precursors did the
Yeah.
forerunners or did the humans first and realized, oh, gotta change some things here. Man, there's some things that are weird. Let me do this.
A few little adjustments. There.
Yeah, and so I really, I enjoyed that the payoff was like the precursors. The whole I call it anti-flood thing.
Mm.
And in one hand, it feels like okay, well, at first I was thinking, okay, they're still plants, we're gonna have to have a serious time jump for them to, for the plans of the library of like having a precursor society coming up. We won't see anytime soon. But then I was thinking, yeah, well, those memories are from 100,000 years ago. I don't know how the state of the little precursor plants are. But the Bastion thing, I think I'm more excited about like the secrets of Bastion in the end. With the whole like their ancient human technology in there. I really love how like they put a lot like Spark saying how strong humanity was back in the day, like reinforcing the idea that like when the war with the Forerunners began, they were already like worn out by everything they did with
with the flood
and everything. So like I would love to see more of ancient humanity, like get the next the next people that we're going to explore is like ancient humanity.
And that's very much what Halo 4 was kind of setting up, because in the sort of development commentary for Halo Legends back in 2009, Frank O'Connor says that the whole ancient human mystery, which they set up in the Babysitter storyline, is very much like the next big thing that they wanted to do. And sadly we've not seen too much of that outside of the Forerunner saga and a few hints here and there.
Yeah, I'm super excited to like see more of ancient humanity. And like the old Sun Healy beliefs, like the Hall of Eternity was such a home run. What the hell, man? And the way that she brought up when like I was just fascinated because I got the audiobook because the book would take like 2-3 weeks to get here. So I got the audiobook and I'm glad I did because man, did you listen to it? Team Dadabo is just an absolute monster, man.
I've not actually listened to the audiobook yet. I've heard some snippets, but yeah, I can only imagine that it's a really great listening experience.
Dude, the guy can change his voice like when he's talking as the Precept Armiger and like Keeper over tools, you like can feel that these guys are not joking, man. That they are like they're like serious. And I like how like Keeper over tools like a savage. First thing that he says like to Spark like this Armiger body, what an unfortunate choice. like dude, get the hell out of here, man. You just got here. Like I like how Ryan said, like, oh, he didn't have a choice. The Spark should be like, I really like this thing. At least I have a body. What about you?
Yeah, and Keeper's just like, can I finally die now, please?
For a moment, I was afraid that we would not see the Forerunner from Halo 5, when they were just like, oh, we are just waiting for this other guy, and I was like, man, in the terminals, he had no idea where the thing is. Will we see him? What's gonna be the deal? And then he comes like, I arrived, and I laughed a lot when like Ryan is being pushed by a portal, and then Spark just like, hey, let me take this from your hand. Bye. See you later. Explain one thing to me that maybe I didn't understand. Why the hell was Ryan pulled by a portal to the last location when she needed another part of the key to open the whole thing?
That's a good question. I'm going to have to reread the book again because, I think I got distracted with everything else that was going on there, that I didn't pay too much mind to kind of the specific mechanics of that point.
I love how Kelly Gay makes Ryan ask, like, why did I come here if we had other stuff to do? But they don't go around to like answer that. Like I think that like Spark just say something philosophical or something like that. But that is something that I didn't get. I was hoping that you would clear my head on that one, but
I will be sure to shoot you an explanation once I go back through my notes for that.
Like my notes as like I think like 30,000 words. Like I made a video review for it in Portuguese, and I put it to render this morning. It's still not like rendered. I'm talking with you on my laptop.
Yeah, when I was reading it, obviously I had the early copy, so I had the book in one hand, and then just like right next to me, I had my notepad, just taking like 10 pages of notes as things were happening.
Yeah, but there's just so much, and like the development. Like, do you think that anybody at Bungie could ever imagine the importance of Guilty Spark?
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? Like the if anyone's keeping up with that story who worked on those original games, they must be like, damn. Because I've spoken with Paul Russell, who is one of the godfathers of Halo. He's the guy who gave Halo its name. He worked on the series from the beginning. And a few years ago, I think it was like 2014, we were having a conversation on Twitter, and the eld, the symbol of the mantle came up. And he was like, oh yeah, back in the day, we just conceived that as just a cool symbol. And now here it is as one of like the most important sort of visual aspects of the universe.
Yeah, this is one thing that I heard from you when you were like on a Sacred Icon, that how 343 got these things that had like no meaning, and they just put it.
Mm,
I mean, the work that they do in making everything make sense is like one of the best things in the franchise.
absolutely.
The fact that war games, the multiplayer is canon. It's like, okay, man, here, take all the awards, just take it, man, because you just knock it out of the park. And then when I was having a conversation with a friend yesterday, and he's like, he said that he doesn't personally care, but like he's kind of pissed there are no playable elites. And then I was like, okay, uh, if you make it canon, I will go with you, because it was like, how I'm gonna put them on the war games. It's not like a Spartan just gonna like, okay, I wanna look like an elite now.
Well, the way that explain that is that in Halo Warfleet we learned that there's I think there's about 24 swords of Sanghelios stationed on the UNSC Infinity, and of course we've got the whole Anvil initiative, which is canon now from the Master Chief Collection, where Spartans and elites kind of serve together on the space station.
He kind of came up with something like this. Oh man, just because I personally still didn't read Halo Warfleet, and neither did he. And he came up with some time and just bring some sort of some heroes on board and say, hey, we are doing kind of like the Anvil thing again, and we just
Mm.
everybody get your war games, and let's be friends. But man, where was I? I told him on Twitter. My brain's like completely. Oh yeah, Guilty Spark, and how they brought everything together. So like, yeah, this guy, like this character came from like that asshole who killed Johnson to like to like one of the most heartbreaking stories and one of the most important characters in the Halo. Like
Yeah.
his goodbye scene, it made so much sense. Like I loved how like Kelly Gay didn't just come with like, oh no, this is my duty, that's what I have to go to do, so we say goodbye. When he kind of like comes to like the realization, like, I don't belong in the past, and unfortunately I don't belong in the present. If I stay with you guys, you all gonna like get old and die, and I'm gonna be alone again. In
Mm.
here, I'm outside of time. That like he does not just understands his duty, but he knows that that's the place where he belongs. I think that was just so great.
And I think that in the future, if Halo does have a significant time jump into the future, it feels like Spark could be the next protagonist, and people would be really on board with that.
Oh man, playing as a if he will keep the armature body modified, man,
Yeah.
I would love. I think that I would want a. I would want. I would tell you the character that I would want to play as a Promethean. I think I would love to play as a Promethean knight because of
Mm.
like the composed mind. Like think about like a dude that's somehow like gets his memories back. Like a dude is fully conscious and he's like a Promethean. He's in this weird ass body. Like all the suffering, all the pain, and you kind of like play as him. I would just love that.
Kind of like a RoboCop kind of story.
Like without a dude called Murphy. I think that this is why I never got into RoboCop, because his name is Murphy, and I think that Murphy is too much of a dorky name.
It's like a dog's name rather than
Yeah, like, oh, this is the savior of mankind. Here comes Murphy.
Murphy.
Murphy and Bob saving the galaxy once again. Um, Now, because I told you that like I read again your librarian piece, and
Mm.
I got some quotes. I got two quotes here from your article. Do you remember this article like deeply in your mind, like me?
I do, yeah, yeah, pretty well.
Do you feel like a lot of what you put out there, a lot of like the explanations, all of the questions, do you think that like Point of Light answered those to you?
In some ways, yeah, I think it caused me to reevaluate a little bit as well because obviously we haven't known about the whole precursor sort of side of things. So it's always been focused on the librarian's plan for humanity to inherit the mantle. And I think she comes across a lot better when you learn about what her true sort of like backstory and plan really was to reseed the precursors, far away from everything else, all the nonsense that's been going on in the galaxy, so that they can kind of re-evolve independently.
Yeah.
And it puts her in a much better light in that sort of sense.
I like it. One of the things I think Point of Light first reassures from your article is how like she's afraid of being forgotten. That she has this
Mm.
side of her that like that kind of person that wants to take credit. Like
Yes.
me and my wife we always have like discussions about like like super rich people who like make a big deal of
Mm.
like donating money to charity. Like okay, if you're really so into it, why don't you do it without the publicity? Like just do it. But like they just make a big deal about it. So like it's about
Yeah.
you kind of ask yourself, okay, is this genuine, or they feel like they want to be looked as a good person. So I
Mm.
kind of gives that idea with the library, like, oh, I did all of this, I don't want to be forgotten. And when I was like I the first time this article came back to my mind was when I was reading the book, the very end, when she is back at the Kilimanjaro with Ryan, and she's
Mm.
saying how Living Time needs its champions and its villains, and I was already both. And I was like, yeah, man. Alex said that you were, man.
Yeah.
Alex said you were a villain. At least you read that one
Oh
too, right?
yes.
That's your reevaluation. Like she was reading the thing, and I was like, oh my god, was I this bad? And then it's like, yeah, bitch, you were, you know. So this is a quote from your article. The librarian champions the idea that it's humanity's birthright to inherit the mantle of responsibility for the galaxy. But to what end? Well, you kind of already told me that you feel like this question was answered in a Point of Light. Because the question would be, but do you feel like this question was answered in Point of Light?
I do, yeah. We learn that she really wants humanity to get the tools to tend to the domain, which has obviously been switched back on now and has been reactivated. So they kind of want it's that kind of long-term plan again, right? So really fill the domain with the kind of richness of the joy of people's interactions with the cosmos, basically.
Yeah, and second point here, this is like a smaller one, but like this is one like I think that this is just like to contemplate how it's cool to not have all the answers, because then you can look back and think about like what you thought back in the day. So this is more like a reflection, because it is hinted, and you put exactly the page where this is said that like she even altered her own appearance through the forerunner process of mutation to appear more human. And I brought this one back because in the book she really states that like, oh, she was like that, and she was hoping so much that her mutation would make her look more forerunner.
Yes, yeah, that is a very interesting reversal that we got there.
Yeah, I think that it would make sense that she would want to look more human, and I think that for some another point from the article, which how she appears to the chief, more like a motherly old figure, and how she
Mm.
shows up in Spartan Ops 2 Housing, like like this. this younger woman everything. And I know that, like, it's a valid point to think like, hey, these cutscenes were done in different times. One is real time, the other one is like fully CGI done by other people. But I think that there is a chance that, like, kind of like, how Galactus in the Marvel universe, they say that he appears as whatever the appearance of Galactus is, whatever the appearance of whatever race is talking to him, that he appears
Yeah.
humans to us. Like, do you think that there is like some element? Do you still think that there's some element, like you kind of see the librarian as the way the librarian appears to you as she should appear to be more appealing, like so many appeals.
Yeah, very much. That's part of the Jean song that she gave to humanity, and you know if there's anyone that's going to kind of pay attention to those details, it's definitely 343 in their storytelling. And I'm looking at the picture now, and it's a clear difference. It really is between the two ways that she's portrayed there. I'm thoroughly convinced that the people creating this kind of story knew exactly what they were doing.
I really like how they kept like the little imperfections, like the eye and everything that you can clearly see, like the one eye is a little bit different than the other. And one thing that is brought up in Renegades, and then you have like a discussion. I think that this is in this same article about like how you deal with the mental. Like the forerunners, they destroyed the precursors because they were like, hey man, it's like dudes talking. It's like, hey, did you know what happened? What, the precursors are gonna take the mentals from us? No, you're kidding. Yeah, they will, man. The hell they will. Like Master Chief in Halo 5. The hell they will. So they go there and just kill them all. Come back. Say, oh, they left the metal for us. But where are they? I don't know. They said that they would buy cigarettes, and then I never see them again. So that violence thing, they took they killed the precursors because they wanted to keep the mental, and because they were afraid that the precursors, like, oh, you know what, you were a failure species, so let's press the reset button. It was nice knowing you. And then the primordial comes and say, you know what, you guys were dicks. Why to be nice to anybody? You create a dude, you take care of him, and then when they grow up, they want you, like, stab you in the back. So, like, no more of this. You just kill everybody, and nobody's gonna be able to betray us again. Like the violence, the approach, like the violence for a different reason, but still a violence. Like, hey, the violence that came from betrayal, and then you quote the whole thing in Halo 4, which is like really cool. Like when it's Lasky who says, right? We are the giants now.
Yes.
And then this ties Renegades, when the whole idea of Operation Bookworm is, hey, get Spark here, he would tell us where the mantle is, and then we're just gonna keep it because we suffered enough. We gotta be the ones looking up. We gotta look out for number one. Because I'm covering Contact Harvest in my channel. I had to like reread the book, and then you can clearly see that there was a chance that there would be peace. Like you obviously, like, get the people who are Johnson is afraid since the beginning, like, hey man, they're gonna be hostile. They're gonna come and they're gonna screw us up. But they set up a meeting. They say, hey, let's try to be friends. But then humanity gets like the raw deal, and we get almost wiped out. So like I think it's like logical that Oni will say, hey, let's secure the most amount of power that we can, so nobody's gonna be able to like screw up again. They are all the same things, but with different approaches.
Yeah, and Ryan has a really great point, of course, at the end of Renegades, where she really considers, like, the great mistake that has been made around all this is the idea that the mantle just belongs to one race, where it should belong to kind of everyone. Humans, Sangheili, Kigya, Ongoy, etc.
Yeah.
Post-war life has really brought Just to quote directly from her, post-war life had begun bringing sort of small pockets of species together, and if certain factions stopped making war, manipulating fears, clinging to their information and technology, and deciding on the greater good without the greater good's input,
Exactly.
it might be the beginning of something better.
The whole Kilo 5 thing. I think that like if the Kilo 5 trilogy did one thing correctly, was like that thing that like you see that like you know Hood wants to be friends with the Arbiter. He wants to get, hey, like his idea is that, hey, let's bring the UNSC to aid the Arbiter and like create this friendship. Let's move on. And Oni is like,
Nope.
no, they were our enemies once. They can screw us up again. So what we're gonna do? We're gonna keep this war going until they are all dead, because we don't trust these assholes. you know. So it's like, what do you think that Oni? What do you think that humanity would do if Oni would get the overarching goal of putting their hands, as if you can say they're gonna put their hands on the domain, or like have the access to the domain?
It's an interesting question, isn't it? Because the specifics of that are hard to sort of puzzle out. I am. It is really hard to say, because obviously you've got groups of people who are absolutely going to want to sort of hoard that for themselves, and there's inevitably stories that I think will come of that. Let's say that in the future, we discover Maithrillion, the Forerunner capital, where the domain is housed, and that becomes like the next big sort of MacGuffin that everyone's sort of fighting over. That would be quite an interesting story to sort of like to go into.
If they would discover like a Maithrillion, that would be the new Reach thing. They would just like hog there.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like, in this point, after all that is hinted about what is in Bastion is the place to be. That's the place to go. And like I really love how like post-war brought, you get these small little conflicts. You get like these guys who want to bring the Covenant back. I was really happy to like hear of the servants of the Abiding Truth in Shadows of Reach, that they were mentioned. I was like, oh man, Delcam and the dudes, they're still a thing, like and then you got like mercenaries like Atriox, but at the same time, the relationship between Ryan and Norfell is something that I feel like a lot of people will pass by a lot of people. But like you got a Kigiar who has a business, who was ready to pass on to two humans. I think that's just huge.
I love that as well. It's such a great sort of relationship that those characters have, which we see in the earlier sort of Ryan Forge books.
Yeah, one thing that I really loved about Kelly Gay's approach to the universe is how she's not afraid to tie her things with other medias.
Oh yeah.
I was like making this because I'm putting my review out for the guys, for the Brazilian dudes, and I'm putting like a prime reviews, like you did, following the footsteps of you and Ian, starting Portuguese. Like, hey, this is what you guys missed on, and I was kind of going through and say, hey, it's kind of there's this element that you see in this book, and there's this element that you see in this other book. Like I was, putting the images there, saying, man, I put so many books here, and Nightfall and everything. It's like so cool how interconnected everything is. I was like, in Smoke and Shadow, I was like, what? When like
yes.
I learned of like Silas Kipley, like dude, he was there, man.
And that book was like less than 100 pages, and yet so much is like packed into that. It just really speaks to her expertise as an author to sort of pull these elements together.
Yeah, I mean, I see her, Troy Denning, and Matt Forbeck as like the guys that the people that 343 like trust the most to say, hey, I have an idea, let's put these guys together. Even though like Broken Circle was just amazing, dude. John Shirley just like, it was so deep, and at the same time, when I read nowadays, I really want you to reread the Forerunner saga, because nowadays I'm more seasoned reader, so to kind of like get into it again, um, but that book was so accessible, was so easy to follow, and of course, like, I wish I would see the whole Right of Union,
Yes, that'd be great.
but like you know these three authors, they have like such a handle of how the universe that is like, I'm a sucker for the Buck stories because I really like those characters. So of course, and Legacy of Onyx, it's like a great book as well. And but like, I see Troy Denning's book, like when I read Shadows of Reach, was almost like, hey, this is kind of like Halo Infinite should play, because you kind of got your side mission there, you got your main objective, and then Chief goes out in a side mission, and then he's like very tactical and everything. But then, like, Kelly's book's like so full of life and character development.
Yes, definitely.
Like, there's so many things. Like, next point of light thing that I want to ask you about. What about the monument, man?
Yeah.
I really hope you get to that place in Infinite.
If we can visit that in Infinite, that would be absolutely amazing, because it just feels like one of those settings that's just like, it's got to be somewhere that we visit, surely, at some point.
Yeah, especially because they have a place there called the Silent Cartographer, man.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't go to the Silent Cartographer, am I even playing a Halo game?
Exactly.
Even though there's only one mission with that name. Well, I'm going to exaggerate the hell out of it.
And there's a very interesting point which they bring up in the book where they talk about like the record of the ring's history and everything. And there's one thing in there that has been removed. And that's nothing to do with Point of Light's story. That feels like something that they set up for Infinite. So we're going to find out what is so big, so important, that it has been literally like burned out of the ring's history. Even though stuff with like the primordial and the precursors and that is known. And that's like high tier information.
Yeah, as I was just thinking while I was reading, like, spark like thinking like, genocide, it's okay, leave it there. Precursors, leave it there. Primordial, leave it there. Civil War, it's okay. But that thing, it's like, no, man, this gotta go. Psh, no, I can't let these people. I can't let people know about this.
So that's big.
Yeah, I was really hoping for a lot of Infinite connections, but then I got something that was way better. I really liked. I think that Halo 5 needed that. I felt the when Lessa and Ram are escaping, and all hell is breaking loose. Like, tell me, dude, isn't that the atmosphere that you would love to see from a Guardian attack in Halo 5?
Absolutely. It felt like I was back in Hunt the Truth again, the way that they present the Guardians in that.
A winged behemoth. That was like so cool.
And it's so like it causes so much chaos. They don't even see it, and then it's just gone.
Yeah, and like how they say, like the tremors come, the buildings just disappear. They look at the prowlers, follow the missiles. They see this winged behemoth. A second later, EMP and all the ships falling down the sky. It's like, God damn, man, this is what I wanted to see, man. This is what it's all about. Talking about Guardians, what is your preferred design of the Guardians? The bird or the little key?
So there's quite a variety of concept art even beyond that, which I'd say I'm even more fond of. I really like, there's this very kind of Lovecraftian, almost Cthulhu-looking, sort of almost squid-shaped thing, with this very kind of eldritch face. That's probably like my favourite of the lot. But out of the ones that we've seen primarily as models, I very much like the Space Owl from the Poncho Chief trailer.
Oh yeah, I go bird all the way. The little key thing doesn't work. I'm not trying to turn on my car. I want you to get scared. They say birds are scary. Well, birds are cute, but that one is really big.
Proper like Shadow of the Colossus vibes from that trailer.
Yeah, I mean, like one of the coolest things in Halo 5 is like coming down from it. When you like got your Genesis with Fire Team Osiris, and then you're just falling down. It's like, dude, man, like, like Locke saying, "Oh, we gotta run down," and I'll be like, "Bitch, are you serious?" Like, what? Look at this. We're so let it wait. Let's see if it parks somewhere.
They designed that whole part so well, like even down to enemies take more damage so that you can move quicker through that area. It's brilliant.
And that is it for part 2. I hope you enjoyed it. I surely did. Except putting the subtitles. That was a legit pain in the ass, but totally worth it if it means that I can get to share these with you. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to not miss part 3 when it comes in the next few weeks. Hit that bell because in the end of the day, that's all that matters. And consider becoming a member of the channel to get me one step closer of paying my bills with YouTube and filling this website with more content than the Google service can handle, and that is a promise. I will see you guys very soon. So until then, be well, don't die.